Hello, everyone, and welcome to another expert interview with Choosing Vibrancy. I'm Sherry Danzig, and I'm delighted to have an expert on a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and particularly right now. But I shouldn't say particularly because it's kind of all the time with me, which is kind of the point of what you talk about. It's on my mind all the time. So this is fabulous. You know, my brand is Choosing Vibrancy, and it's difficult to choose vibrancy at the same time that you're not feeling good about yourself, that you're judging yourself, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, and you're looking at what you don't love and so forth, right? And so this is definitely your lane. So I love bringing in experts that can shed a light in this whole big picture of self-care and self-love and true well-being, which is really at the heart of choosing vibrancy. It's not just about how things look on the outside. It's really what's going on the inside. And yes, you would agree with that. So without further ado, this is Carol May. Carol is coming across the pond to connect on Zoom, which is really fun. And in this virtual world, you can talk to anybody, work with anyone from this way. So it really doesn't matter. But she calls herself the Disruptive Health Coach. And I'm going to have your contact information so that people, because I'm sure this is going to resonate with a lot of women. You work with midlife menopausal women. Hello, that would be me and many people that I talk to as well. And you're going to be an author coming out in the fall.
Yep.
And I love the title of your book, Stop Dieting, Eat Cake. Love that. Love cake. Don't want to diet. So, and there's so many things I could say about what resonates with me, Carol, because I love that you're all about empowerment, that it's about, loving your body and being in a place of loving yourself where you are, right? Because we're all on a journey every day. Every day we have to eat. So every day there are, we are making choices, and it reflects how we feel about ourselves and our health and all of that. So I'm going to let you talk instead of me just go on about how much I love this topic and can't wait to hear you talk. Tell us a little bit about what brought you here, because you said I can relate to this. You've been there too. So tell us a little bit about your story, because I think that's a good place for all of us.
Okay. Yep. Lovely. Thank you, Sherry. I went on my first diet when I was 11 or 12, along with my doctor gave me appetite suppressants. Now, appetite suppressants are amphetamines.
Oh boy, at 11.
Yeah, my brain just went, whoa, hang on a second. And I have an ADHD brain, so goodness knows what damage it did back then, when we actually knew nothing about ADHD and really nothing about the effect of amphetamines on our brain. And the worst part of it wasn't fat. I just felt it because I was tall. So I just felt like I was bigger than my friends. That began sort of, I guess, almost 5 decades of yo-yo dieting and body hatred. I was a home economist. I trained as a home economist. I loved cooking and food. I still do. And I thought, well, I eat all the right things. Never, ever have I ever had a McDonald's burger in my entire life. And I thought, well, I don't eat that kind of food that all programs on the TV tell you about. Why can't I be the weight that I want to be? And then I discovered, I went through training. I trained in nutrition. I trained in lots of therapies, including eating disorders. And I thought, well, I know all this stuff, and I'm doing some of the work myself. But nothing's really changing. This is kind of weird. And I thought, okay. Then I started questioning what we're being told about weight and the size that men think women should be. And that's basically what it comes down to. And I'm not going to get all political here. It's not the place, but there is, there's a part of me that is very disruptive and rebellious. You're trying to tell me you and whose army? Talk to the hand,
right?
Because it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, we grew up with the Barbie dolls, so I mean, it's universal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just a very tall girl. And, this nonsense that's talked around BMI, for instance.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate that.
Which I call it, and I apologize now for this language, I call it bullshit, misleading, and inaccurate.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
Right.
And I have met people who say my weight is what it should be, but then my GP tells me that my BMI means that I'm obese. And I look at them and I go, definitely not.
Right.
Anyway, I did some healing work, self-healing work with a mentor and coach around issues following my divorce. And during that time, when I finally let go of some of these negative emotions, my body seemed to let go of weight all on its own. And I'm going, oh, this is interesting. Now this has caught my attention. What's going on here? Excuse me. And what my research showed was that, there is, I can't remember the author of the book, but it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And so what happens with all of the negative stuff in our lives, all the trauma we experience, and we all do experience trauma.
Sure.
In various degrees, and COVID has been a trauma for the whole world.
Right.
Which is why a lot of people put on weight, because anything that's not resolved and healed, the body stores it. It does is it stores it in fat. So it makes itself bigger in order to store that unresolved emotional stuff, if you like.
Interesting.
And on top of that, we now live in a very toxic world, literally toxic environment. Certainly here in the UK, the air quality is poor in most places. We are always very close to all sorts of places where there are heavy metals being produced.
Right.
And our body apparently stores that as well in the fat, because it doesn't want it going around our body.
Right. So that's a good place to keep it. I mean, it's a wise thing that our body does that, because it's keeping it from other organs that would be more affected, but nonetheless, it's stuck there. Talk about emotional eating, because I think that's the trigger. I mean, I know it is for me. I know that I can actually catch myself in a thought where I'm stressed, I'm aggravated, I'm, mad about something, I feel small, I feel unseen, whatever that emotion is of not feeling in my full living vibrantly kind of persona, because none of us can stay there all the time. We're kind of, moving
in and out the whole time,
in and out, and it's our thoughts. And so then it's about how quickly can we reset our thoughts. And I'm pretty good at that, I know. And I still, with all that I've done, all my work I've done on myself and my body and so forth, I mean, it's a trigger for me. I go to what am I going to eat? What's going to soothe me? I'm a foodie. And so it's, what do you do with that? I mean, I think people understand it exists. So we don't need to break that down. It's a very, food is a very soothing, it's meant to be appreciated and enjoyed and savored.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
and there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of people go, oh yeah, my my soothing food is chocolate. That's a very common one, particularly for women. It is often carbohydrate, particularly in the evening.
Yep.
And because that's our body going, well, if you eat carbohydrate, for me, I can create serotonin that makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can go on to create, because it's getting darker outside, I've got the tools, I've got this food here to create melatonin to help you sleep, and then you'll feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we are reacting to our body's wisdom, if you like. And because we mostly, as human beings currently, live in our head. We don't live in our heart. We don't feel connected to our body. And we have been taught that everything is always our fault. And whatever that is in life. So we put our eating into that box as well. And that we take on the shame and the guilt that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it can become secret eating. You know, I used to spend a lot of time in my kitchen when my kids were little. And I realized that I used to spend a lot of time at the fridge. Just go, oh, I'll have that, and oh, I'll have that. Without any idea of what was triggering me. Now I know what was triggering me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't back then. And that tends to be the majority of us. And there's absolutely no blame here at all. Absolutely none, right? It's how we've been brought up. And, you know, even in school here now, I don't know what it's like over there, even in kindergarten kind of level of school, the teachers are not allowed to sit a child on their lap and give them a hug.
Mm.
Now, sometimes that is all we need. So we learn at a very young age how to help ourselves feel better, what it is. And for some people, that's food. And, you know, excuse me. When I do, one of the things I do is I work with a friend and we teach kids about cooking. And we do all-day workshops in the school holidays. And I look at what the parents give them to eat in their lunch boxes. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh, okay. There's no salad, there's no fruit, there's no greenery. There's an awful lot of carbohydrate and sugar.
Yeah, yeah.
So very early on, we are being programmed.
Well, it's simple. It's simple. I mean, that, you know, people are busy, parents are busy.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, it's a simple, it's for,
yes.
You know, as adults, if we're looking at, we're running out the door, we realize, oh, I haven't eaten, you know, It's not time to grab a salad. Or even if you had a salad and you're running out, you know, you're not going to eat a salad in the car.
Nope.
Right. Or if you are not running out any place, but you're getting on a Zoom, it's easier to grab something that's you know, and typically carbs are packaged and so forth for all of that. So do you think it's, I mean, when you're working with someone, what are the tips that you offer? It's obviously to look at what you're eating to some degree.
Yes.
I mean, that's got to be part of it. I'm hearing that.
That's
the
where it
nutritionist
starts.
In you. Right. It's a bit more. I know that the tip of like every plate should be, I hate the word should, but you know, it's best to have half of the plate be full of veggies, right? Half is green stuff.
Yes.
Or the rainbow. It doesn't have to only be green. It could be
any color.
But it's the veggies, it's the good carbs, right? So if we're doing that, I've worked with a health coach before that talks about above and below the red line. So the red line is, you know, if you go above the red line, it's more calorie rich, you know, more, you know, so you want lesser calorie I can't think of the word, but that
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
less calories in that, and those kinds of things you can eat a lot of if
Yep.
it's all the greens and stuff. So
Yep.
you start with changing
that yeah, that is what we're taught, how to limit the food that we really love, basically.
So tell us about how we can stop dieting and not worry but eat cake. How do we do that? Tell me how to do it.
This is about becoming an intuitive eater.
Okay, let's get to that.
And intuitive eating is eating in tune with your body and your brain's needs.
Okay.
Moment in any day of the week. Oh, excuse me. And so it's our children are born. We were all born intuitive eaters.
Mm-hmm.
Cried when we were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped when we were full.
Mm-hmm.
When we'd had enough. And then I look at my little granddaughter, and she would say, "I've had enough now." I go, "Okay." She said, "So can I have a bag of chips?" "No, you can't, because if you've had enough, you don't need that." So she's already at 3.5 come out of that intuitive eating place into the expectations of society. What I do with clients is I take them back to that intuitive eating place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so initially I teach the intuitive eating and mindful eating, which is about eating slowly. It is about tasting every mouthful, chewing it, giving it, I call it giving it the reverence it requires.
Mm-hmm.
We can be very cavalier with our food. We can be very cavalier with our bodies, when actually, if we focus on that first, people say, "Oh, I don't have time to do that." Okay, but we're talking about you nourishing the body in which you live.
Right.
That should be a number 1, not number 10. And so I get women looking at that. I get them to, once I know what their normal diet is, I will say, "Okay, well, maybe we'll do a 5-day detox for you and see what happens." And that is about never eating those foods ever again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about them understanding and feeling the effect those foods having on their body and their brain,
Mm-hmm.
and how different they feel when they don't eat them.
Right.
So then after that, we're talking about making positive choices. And in that, it is about what is a positive choice for you? Because it's very different from me, or from your friend next door, or your sister, or whatever. It's it's working out what makes you really feel good and what doesn't. And then you can choose. Now, I personally, I'm better without dairy.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I love it. Butter, cheese, yogurt, all of that. I love it. Ice cream. And so whilst I don't eat it all the time, I do have it occasionally. And it's a positive choice because I know the negative effect it's going to have on my body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I choose that. But when I'm choosing that food, I don't gobble it down like I used to. I actually really enjoy every mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
If you chocolate, I sloosh, it sounds awful, I sloosh it around my mouth, really get into the flavor of it.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it, make it a moment. And once we've done that part of it, then we start looking at what I call the deep work, the emotional work of why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And looking at doing the release work around that. Because until we've done that release work, so that our body is going to release the weight it no longer needs to carry around because you released all that gunk that's been stored in there.
Right.
Until you've done that, it's not going to be permanent.
Yeah.
And so you go on that roller coaster of yo-yo darting, which just makes your body, well, it has terrible negative effect on your body, because it just goes, as soon as you start to eat a little bit less, the body goes, oh, I'm going to die. She's starving me. And it sounds a bit dramatic, but that's exactly how the primitive brain works.
Yeah.
Slow down the metabolism. Let's conserve calories. Let's, do all of this.
Sure.
And that's why when you are a chronic dieter, dieting becomes even more frustrating than it ever was, because you just don't lose anything.
Well, it's our minds are very good at telling us, okay, I can do this for a little while so that I can get to a certain weight before this particular event, right? Yep. I want to look a certain way, right? So I think we're going to wrap it up. We could talk about this for hours. I know it's a topic to me. And I'll tell you that I've read about this. I've been studying intuitive eating for some time. I've worked with some people. I've read certain books. I'm excited to read your book, because there's a lot of depth to this whole thing. Like you said, we've been trained, we've been conditioned from such a young age. It's not like another type of addiction, and I know this has been compared before. It's not like smoking or drinking, different other addictions, because we have to eat. We could very easily survive without eating, without smoking, or without drinking. Yep. We can't without food. So I think that the thing that really caught my attention is how important it is to pay attention when you're eating. And I am chronic. I want to, bring my food in front of the TV or bring it in front of the computer. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I say, I don't have the time to it, and I realize, though, the time that any one person like myself spends lamenting about their bodies, all of that, the time, we have the time. Yes. We need to make choices to make it a priority. So,
but it's about making choices based on current science and information, not what we've been taught all these years.
Right.
To ignore this thing that says obesity causes diseases. It doesn't, right? Obesity, if you're obese, which, is a movable feast as far as I'm concerned, and certain other things are present genetically, environmentally, whatever, then you are more likely to develop certain things like cancer, heart disease, and so on. But just being overweight, and I take overweight because that again is a movable feast, is not a determining factor in itself. And that's the interesting thing. That's the lie we've been told all these years. And I still see people talking about it all over social media. They go, no, it doesn't cause those diseases. And it's about keeping ourselves up to date with what's really going on and being aware of where our thinking is going about this. The shoulds and oughts that you and I.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the whole BMI thing, it needs to be rebooted, because I've heard this before. People that are, have a lot of muscle mass.
Yes.
So they have a very low. I think it's much more important to look at the fat percentage, body fat percentage, the ratio. To me, that's the number. The number on the scale is based on so much of your body type, your are you big boned, big muscle, how tall are you? None of that is factored in. And it ticks me off. So let's throw that. We can kick that one to the curb.
We can
kick that one to the curb. Well, Carol, it's been a delight. It's been so illuminating of some of the things that you're bringing to the topic of, and I have to bring one current topic in that I think is so on this point, and that is go watch the movie Good Luck, Leo Grand. Emma Thompson from your part of the pond stars in it. I can't even remember if it's on HBO or Netflix. It's one of the streaming ones. It's a very on point movie about her, how she feels about her body. It's her sexuality certainly as well. And and she does a very courageous thing in the very end where she stands completely nude in front of a full-length mirror, looking at her body and deciding to love what she sees. And that's something I've started doing recently, which is to look at myself and say positive things. And when I catch myself, because that's what we have to do, is we have to teach ourselves to catch ourselves when we're going into that negative self-talk and shift it. And so I'm being very intentional about saying loving things about my body, butt naked, look at myself and find something that I love and be able to pour that in, because it's the only way we have to present ourselves to the world through our own internal feelings. I mean, that's really where it starts and ends.
Yeah, so, it is, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Great.